The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Hambleton again, everybody. Now, yesterday you got a really short episode, didn't you, in Thornton on the Hill? Well, this one, let me tell you, is a little bit longer. In fact, there's loads in this place, and it'll take us a good hour or so to walk around this. It's a fairly sizable village. This is the lovely Orchard Village. That's its nickname. Its actual name is Husthwaite. Husthwaite house clearing. Today on TVI we come to Husthwaite, a large village located just under 3.5 miles away from Easingwold. Elfin Beck runs to the north of this one, and it's part of the tributary system of the River Swale. In all, it's a pleasant location, and one that's very sought after for many prospective house buyers. Husthwaite has always been a village that made good use of its land, and it still does. There are lots of arable fields around it, and it's not uncommon to see tractors making their way through the village. However, since the early 17th century, Husthwaite has had a nickname which perfectly describes what it was, and indeed still is. Welcome to the Orchard Village, where fruit, mainly apples, was grown in abundance in a series of orchards. It was then shipped all over the northeast of England. By the late 1960s, though, nearly all of the existing orchards had gone thanks to a labour shortage after World War II. There was very little evidence of its heritage at that time, and it looked as though Husthwaite's days of being fruity were over. Today, though, that's been overturned thanks to a local history project which saw many of the trees replanted. Aiding the resurgence are a new business based at Baxby Manor. Since 2009, orchards of Husthwaite have become well known for their apple products like cider and fruit juices. The local pub also upholds the fruit connection by way of its name, the Plum and Partridge. From it, you can get some great views of the famous Kilburn White Horse. Visit this one and you'll also find a wonderful church, a school, 2 old chapels, a village hall and a playground. Lovely. Let's go. Here's what Husthwaite looked like in 1900. A simple enough village in terms of layout and structure. Most of it was based along 3 streets which all met at a triangular green. They still do. It's only seen a minor amount of development since these days, and essentially it still looks just like this. To the west is Baxby Manor House, which again isn't too dissimilar either now. Running across the northern tip of the village you can see a railway line. Now it's important to note that Husthwaite once had a station on that line. It was called Husthwaite Gate, and the station building still stands. However, its location is just outside the parish boundaries. As such, there will be no railway-related bits in this episode. We will, however, cover that in a future episode. To be honest, Husthwaite has plenty of other stuff without it. We start with the High Street. That's the road to the east of the village green. On it you can see in 1900 there was the manor house and a chapel, with the church not too far away. Take note of all these tree symbols around the village too, by the way. Those will become important as we make our way through Husthwaite. Our first job is to find that chapel located halfway up the High Street. Husthwaite is said to have been one of the first places in the area to be visited by early Methodist preachers. By 1797, it was regarded as a Methodist village. The chapel you've just seen on that map was the original Wesleyan one, built in 1841. However, as you can see, there are actually 2 chapels here side by side. When the original chapel closed, it was turned into a private residence, and now it's a holiday home called Colton Loft. To replace it, a brand new chapel was built, and it's literally right next door to the old one. Talk about not going far, eh? The newer chapel was built in 1928. Once the new chapel had been built, the old one was well used for meetings of the WI, the gardening club, harvest suppers, children's fellowship, school dinners, and the village Christmas service. In 2000, it was sold to help finance many alterations to the new chapel, but just 19 years later, the new one too would cease its operations. It was due to decreasing attendance, although the members of the congregation that still remain in Husthwaite today continue to meet in each other's homes or at St Nicholas's Parish Church. So to the church. It occupies a prime spot right in the middle of Husthwaite, overlooking the central village green. Primarily it's built of sandstone with lead roofs and consists of a nave, a south porch, a chancel and a west tower. The tower has 3 stages. It was built in the 12th century and the oldest surviving parts to this day are the nave and the chancel. The tower was added in the 15th century and the south doorway was replaced in 1683. A porch was added in 1878 before the whole building was restored in 1896. That work included replacing some of the nave windows. The church was given a Grade 2 listing in 1960. Inside, there are some 17th century box pews and an altar rail, a pulpit and a font cover of similar date. There's also a 13th century lead coffin cross and a couple of 18th century wall monuments. Now, as far as stained glass goes in this one, I have no idea of how much it contains. However, stained glass is something Husthwaite is known for, thanks to its most famous son. In 1731, William Peckett was born in the village. He was a glass painter and a stained glass maker, and he's often regarded as one of the best of all time. He was based in York throughout his working life, where he was one of the leading Georgian glass craftsmen in England. He might not be a household name, but perhaps he should be. It was William Peckett who was responsible for most of the stained glass and painted glass work that survives from the second half of the 18th century. It could have been so different for him. As the son of a glove maker, he spent his early years working with his father, making them, before establishing himself as a glass painter in Colliergate in York. Peckett worked throughout his life on the maintenance of the medieval glass in York Minster, as well as painting new windows there too. He also undertook commissions for cathedrals, churches and houses, as well as producing windows for a number of colleges, including the fabulous Alma Mater window at Trinity College, Cambridge. By Peckett's time, the medieval art of manufacturing stained glass had been lost, and all that survived were the paintings of enamels onto glass and the process of silver staining. Although most of the work produced by Peckett was painted glass, he did experiment with stained glass and produced windows incorporating it, unlike his contemporaries. He continued these experiments throughout his life, and in 1780 he patented an invention for blending coloured and stained glass together. Although his contributions to the technical development of the craft have been well recognised and documented, his draftsmanship has sometimes been criticised. He attempted to resolve that by employing established draftsmen such as the Italians Biagio Rebecca and Giovanni Battista Cipriani to draw cartoons for him. After his death, he was buried in York at St Gregory's Church. In the church, he has a memorial created by his wife, and what better form for it to take than a stained glass window? Yes, I don't know if there's any Peckett stained glass in this church, but if you come to this church, you will find something on this outside wall here which tells you a bit about the guy. There's a plaque here, as you can see. Thanks to the Husthwaite Local History Society, it basically says William Peckett, 1731 to 1795, born in this village. He played a major part in reviving the art of stained glass painting in this country. Indeed he did. Now that plaque can be found right next to the war memorial, which is there. And all of this is dead opposite the village green. Let's talk a bit about this. So now we're off to explore the western end of the village, basically everything from the church up to the end of civilization. As you can see here, it looked a little uninspiring 125 years ago, with an old school near the green being the only landmark of any note apparently. Don't be fooled, there's far more there now. Here is the central green, which the church sits in front of. The roads depart in divergent ribbons here, with the houses a miscellany of architecture. Some have faded red brick and sash windows, whilst others have prosaic cement render and double glazing. There used to be a house on the green, and there's a rather humorous tale connected to it via the 1906 UK general election. During the election campaign, Husthwaite was the venue for an address given by the Liberal candidate for the Thirsk and Moulton seat, John J. Brigg. He was speaking to a crowd of villagers gathered on the village green, where he stated that if he was to be elected, his party would rid the nation of hovels. To illustrate his point, he gestured towards the house on the green, not realising that at the time it was the home of the chairman of the meeting he was addressing. As you can imagine, he wasn't elected. He still managed to receive over 5,000 votes, but it wasn't enough to unseat the Tories. In fact, Thirsk Malton has been a safe Conservative seat since it was created in 1885. This house, which looks almost Tudor-like in its outward appearance, is the old Black Bull pub, which closed in 1938. Husthwaite only has one pub today, but it's more of a hotel, if truth be told. Just up from the green, you can see the old school. This is the one thing on this walk I struggle to find anything about. I do know at least that it was a national school. Now a private house, the children of Husthwaite now attend a brand new school elsewhere in the village. More on that in a bit. Next though, we turn our attention to that hotel. It's over the road. Now, one thing you'll definitely notice if you come to Husthwaite is the amount of trees around you. It's a very leafy village. In fact, I was expecting there to be a tree on the village green. If you look on Google Maps, the street view imagery, you can see there is a tree which is supposed to sit in the middle of the triangle. It's obviously been taken down at some point. So why are there so many trees here? Let's find out. This is the Plum and Partridge, which has previously been known as the Blacksmith's Arms, Orchard and Balmoral. Its name is connected to two things Husthwaite was historically known for. The plum part of the name is a nod to the village's fruit-growing heritage, whilst the partridge is to do with the local passion for shooting. Husthwaite has a long history of fruit growing. Apple orchards and plum orchards have been documented here as far back as 1856. However, they declined after World War II due to labour shortages and changing market preferences. Thanks to a recent history project though, some orchards have now been replanted. Husthwaite provided large quantities of fruit to jam factories and markets, with produce transported to Thirsk Market by bus every Monday. The village's fruit was even transported to Captain Cook's ships and sold to Whitby whalers, highlighting its reach beyond the local area. As for the shooting, well, if you stay in this hotel, you can see that connection quite clearly. Each one of its 9 bedrooms has a tall gun cabinet. There are 3 real ale hand pulls on the bar. The choice of beer changes, though Timothy Taylor Landlord seems to be a popular fixture here. It's all run by the same people who own York Marina in the city of York itself. The Plum and Partridge can be considered a sister business to that. So as we know, there's no longer a school in the centre of the village. However, there is still one in Husthwaite. You just have to walk a bit further to find it. That's where we're going next, as we follow Low Street around a gentle bend to the southwest. The school is right on the edge of the village these days. Husthwaite C of E Primary School opened its doors in 1974, amalgamating several local schools from neighbouring villages into one. This is proud to be an integral part of the local community, offering quality education for children aged from 3 to 11 years. Just like the Plum and Partridge, this too recognises Husthwaite's historical links to the growing of fruit. Its motto is sowing seeds, bearing fruit, harvesting potential. The school building is bright and spacious, and it's fortunate to have extensive grounds which enhance its pupils' learning experiences. They help to promote an understanding of the environment. Although not part of the grounds, the kids must love it here for another reason, because as soon as they get out of the school gate, they're literally seconds away from the local park. But hang on a moment, before we go to the park ourselves, we have this little lane to discuss. There are several things of note up there. However, it's a private road, so we won't be walking it. I can, though, show you what's up there by referring back to our map once again. That area is known as the Baxby Manor estate, and it's the site of a deserted village which could well have originated before even the Romans were around. The principal residence within it is Baxby Manor House. That in itself is worthy of a lengthy video. On this map you can also see the water-powered Baxby Mill standing on the Elfin Beck. Baxby Manor House is easily the most historic dwelling in Husthwaite Parish today. The core of the manor house was built in about 1300. A chimney was inserted and a wing on the right was added in around 1600, whilst the outer walls were encased in stone in the 18th century. The building has a timber-framed core encased in brown sandstone, and it has a pantar roof too. At the rear, brickwork covers a base crook. Now that's not a common feature. In fact, it's something that's only found elsewhere in northern England at Cannons Garth in Helmsley. The house has 2 stories, a main range of 3 bays, and a gabled crosswing on the right. It was given a Grade 2 listing in 1980, and in recent times it served mainly as a farmhouse. From the mid-1980s, part of its grounds have been used as an unlicensed airfield, and that's still going. The airfield is used primarily by the Baxby Airsports Club. Baxby Airsports Club has been training microlight pilots and maintaining and inspecting microlight and light aircraft for nearly 40 years. That makes it one of the oldest microlight schools in the UK. Orchards of Husthwaite are based on the Baxby Manor estate too. They are apple growers and artisan cider makers, and thanks to them, Husthwaite's reputation as an orchard village continues today. Orchards of Husthwaite was formed in 2009 to replant the vanishing fruit orchards we mentioned earlier. They now use their own fruit to make a variety of products. They include Galtra's ciders and fruit juices. They're also purveyors of craft ales and fine spirits. They don't currently deliver, but they used to. You're still welcome to collect from them directly though. Elsewhere on the estate there are some camping and glamping opportunities. The latter is provided by Rufus's Roost, accessed through a forest via a raised boardwalk. Camping-wise, the estate can offer 32 pitches, a pristine clean shower and toilet block, and a small shop stocked full of essentials, as well as a fridge and pot washing facilities too. Believe it or not, by the way, the toilet block has won Baxby Manor a few friends. It's so clean, it's claimed a Loo of the Year award for several years running. Quite a prestigious honour that. And here's a piece on Baxby Mill. Situated on the Elfin Beck, it was water-powered, but the way it operated was a little unusual. Unlike many other mills similar to it, there was never a large mill pond at Baxby. This is odd because the purpose of a mill pond is to provide sufficient water pressure to force a water wheel to turn. At Baxby, water powered the mill via an unusually long mill race or channel which extracted water from the Elfin Beck some 700 or 800 metres from the actual mill site. In fact, the end of this channel was pretty much where the beck passes under Elfin Bridge Lane, the road that runs from Husthwaite to Carlton Husthwaite. The route of the old mill race is still evident on some aerial photography. Despite this odd powering arrangement, there may have been a small artificial pond that controlled the water flow. If there was, it was likely filled with rubbish by the parish in the late 1800s. At that time, there were no real laws and regulations regarding waste disposal, and it may well have been a convenient spot. Here's the park as we rejoin the route. Our next job is to make our way through this to get to the final area of Husthwaite, and this will involve climbing up a hill. Yeah, this wasn't the easiest footpath to find. You look on the map and you think it goes through the park. It doesn't. It's just before the park's entrance. So yeah, if you want to follow this route, the path you're looking for here is the one to the immediate right of the park's entrance before you actually get into it. So I'm on it anyway, and this will take us towards the Nookin. Using the footpath you can see on the left, which skirts the edge of the park, we're heading towards this street, the one that runs south from the green. It has the village hall, which isn't marked here. After that, we'll then complete the circuit of the village by heading up to Gibbet Hill, where there would have once been a rather foul stench in the air. The street we're on here is called the Nook Inn, but less than a century ago it had a different name. It was called Pilgrim Street, or at least the lower end of it was. The current Husthwaite Village Hall has only been here for 11 years, but the piece of land it stands on has played host to a communal building for much longer than that. The new hall opened its doors in January 2014, and the village residents think it's a fantastic replacement for the old hall, which still holds a cherished position in the heart of this community. It was built thanks to the generous support of the Big Lottery Fund and other monetary sources. It can seat up to 120 people when it's full. It also has a committee room which is suitable for small meetings and groups. Then of course there's a kitchen which has facilities to cater for large events. There's also a licensed bar. On the regular, the hall hosts things like theatre productions, live music, quizzes, exercise classes, table tennis, short mat bowls, and almost anything the community wants. The Apple Tree Cafe is held here once a month. The Orchard Village Club, the Book Exchange, the Gardening Club, the Film Club and the History Society keep this building well used otherwise. Our last job before we reach the road where we started is to walk up the reasonably steep Gibbet Hill. You can probably guess from the name, but Gibbet Hill has a rather unsavoury past. Gibbet Hill once had a post where wrongdoers were hung up and gibbeted for all to see. Gibbeting, if you don't know, was what sometimes happened to the bodies of executed criminals. They were displayed in an iron cage or suspended from a gallows, and they often smelt foul. There's no gibbet post here these days, thankfully, so we can progress to the top of the hill without any fears. At the top we turn onto Kay's Bank. This is named after John and Sarah Kay, who once lived on this street. John Kay was a well-known horsebreaker in the village. At this point, although you can't see it, we're passing the entrance to a fabulous country house called Beacon Banks, built in the 1850s by members of the Wales family. We'll likely meet that name again in the future because there are several branches of that family still scattered across North Yorkshire, and Northumberland too, in fact. Okay, so with Husthwaite Village visited, we can now move on to another place which has Husthwaite in its name. To get to that, we have to head to the northwest. The sister village to this one, it's got far less than this did, but still manages to put itself on the map by way of a unique sculpture. See you tomorrow. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.